What's going on, everybody? SeanPierceJohnson here, and welcome to my home studio right now. Things are a bit slapdash right now because it is about 48 hours until I head up to Pomona to go play the Warped Tour with my band Cockeyed Optimist. So I've been practicing all day. Pardon the sweatiness and pardon the stench. Good thing smell-o-vision doesn't exist right now. But I thought it would be cool to show you guys finally the whole rig that I'll be using on Warped Tour. The guitars, the amps, the effects. Amps, we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, you saw the pedalboard build, and now it's time to reveal the whole thing. So I think the most logical place to start is with guitars, and what better place to start than the Chapman ML7T. This is kind of the main guitar for the really heavy jugga kind of things. It's tuned in standard, so low to high, it's B, E, A, D, G, B, E, and it's bone stock. I haven't done really anything to it since I got it. The Chapman pickups sound pretty darn good, if I do say so myself. On certain days, like some days I feel like changing them, some days I don't necessarily feel like changing them. But right now it's working out really well, and I don't have to do a whole lot to it to get it to sound really good. This guitar and me have an interesting relationship because it definitely the first two songs of the set are going to have the 7-string in them, and those particular songs were directly inspired by the acquisition of the 7-string. And it's an interesting thing when you get a new instrument and it starts opening up the creative floodgates, so to speak. It's got a really, I think I dial up a little sound for you guys right now. Because of the low tuning, you kind of have to play around with your EQ curves and your gain staging. But I think it's a really cool guitar. Like I said, it's completely stock. Pickups are the same. It's Ernie Ball strings, which, as much as I love my Gabriel Tenorios, right now with all the money we're spending to do this tour and all the merch, I wasn't able to get on the horn to Gabriel. But I've used Ernie Balls for years and I've always been a big fan. And that's going to be the guitar taking care of the brunt of the initial assault, I should say. And then have this guitar, which a lot of you guys have probably seen the demo of, but I've been getting a lot more questions about. It's my Ramos Guitars At Last C Custom, the Black Rider, or Nazgul, as I've come to call it and label it on my Line 6 wireless system. It's a beautiful guitar. It's extremely lightweight. Like, if you were to play it, it's feather light. It's made of Spanish cedar, which is actually just kind of it's kind of like within the same family as mahogany. So when I try to approximate the sound of it to everybody, I say it's got a lot of the mahogany bark, but it doesn't have a lot of the heft. So one of the big things that I do with this is, in the overall grand scheme of the sound, especially in the relay, which we'll get to in a little bit, I like to use the cable length simulation that the Line 6 wireless systems have, because if you don't, there's quite a lot of cut to this guitar. So it's a very interesting instrument. You know, it's much more metal and djenty than anything I have right now. It's got Seymour Duncan pickups in it, Nazgul and Sentient, and I'm pretty much on the bridge pickup the whole time, with the exception of a couple little sections of a guitar solo where I flick up to the neck pickup. But it's a banging riff machine. You know, the neck's a little chunkier and more rounded than you might expect a modern metal guitar to be. But the fingerboard is pretty flat, and it's very easy to do your kind of... Yeah, you know, that kind of thing. It's good for that. But I like it a lot, especially because it's lightweight. Again, Ernie Ball strings, 10 to 52s, just an all-around good set for me. Anything lighter than 10 to 52, I tend to knock out of pitch pretty quickly. But it's built in Spain by my friend Jose Ramos, and it's a beautiful instrument that I have now been able to add to my collection, and I love it. I think it's a great guitar. Used it a lot on the new record for several different things, actually. One of which, if I can... So anything that requires like a nice, really crisp, clean tone tended to get used there, but also just as a kind of riffer. It's just got this really great cut that when it comes to heavier riffs, it's got this attack and this cut, and it's mean sounding, and it's kind of grindy, and it's very different than any other guitar that I have. And with the push-pull pots, each of them control one of the pickups for single coil tones, so it's very easy. I'm glad I have some strap locks on this one. Locking hip shot tuners, string through the body. I think probably one of my favorite touches on the guitar, and I'll go over to this camera right here, is the laser engraved metal electronic cavity cover. That's just one of those nice little touches on a custom instrument that really makes a difference on the quality. I love the top of it. It's not 100% like a perfect flame maple top, and I kind of love that about it, especially this one particular burl in the maple right there, because of my Lord of the Rings fandom and associating this guitar with that story. I've taken to referring to that little mark in the maple as the Great Eye, lidless, wreathed in flame. You guys should recognize this one by now, I would think. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you know this one. It's my go-to. It's my Old Faithful. It doesn't have a name. I don't want to give it a name. I don't really like giving guitars names that much. But I figured, you know, there's no guitar that really gets me like this guitar. I've had it the longest of pretty much every guitar on my rack right now. When I look at it, yeah. I've had this pretty much since I was a teenager, 15 years old, 14, 15. 15 most likely. 15, 16, probably closer to that range. But it's the go-to. Seymour Duncan pickups, JB and Jazz. It's a Les Paul Studio. You know, other than the pickups, that's all it is. And it's been through its ringers. It's got its dents, it's got its scratches, it's got its dings and whatnot. But I tell you what, man, when I plug this guitar into just really about any amplifier, I'm pretty good to go. And this is going to be used for the last two songs of the set. one from our first EP and one from our second EP, and it's just probably the most balanced guitar that I have, really. Just a fantastic clean tone, which is rare for Les Pauls. I don't know why, but it just is. And then when it comes to riff stuff, it's home. And with all the breaks that it's had in the headstock, which it's had 3, I don't think I've ever shown you guys a close-up of that. You know, it's had so much happen to it over the course of its life that you'd think after a while that I would just kind of say, enough is enough. It's time to put this thing down and put it to bed and try to find something to replace it. You know, and I got 2 other Les Pauls, but none of them sound like this one. You know, it's a combination of the age, it's a combination of my bond with it. It's just a fantastic instrument that if it doesn't want to stop, why stop it? You know, guitars can always be repaired. So that's kind of the story with the guitars. Now let's take it down to the floor, and I'll kind of explain to you guys what's going on the pedal board and, well, really what I'm doing there. So when I did that video of the pedal board build, I kind of explained the idea behind what I was doing and why I had to do it. So this board is everything into the front end of the backline amplifier that I'm going to be using. And as you can see, it's changed ever so slightly since that original build video. And I'm at a point with it where I'm really happy, but at the same time I can't wait to configure it in the way that I really want to use it. So with that said, let's just walk through the signal chain. Obviously, guitar first and foremost, and then I'm using the Line 6 Relay G70 which is just an absolutely fantastic wireless system. It's a digital wireless system, but with everything that is in it and the amount of latency that you experience, I mean, the latency is negligible. You're almost at nothing. So there's no disconnect, and that's really helpful. Then from the Relay G70's output, we're going into the top right corner of the pedal board underneath the generator that says plug on it. I'm going into one of the inputs there of a TheGigRig Cinco patch bay, just kind of as a fail-safe thing in case the wireless goes down for any reason, like, you know, battery loss, or if it's just causing too much noise. Completely bypass it, just plug in a cable, everything's ready to go, and I've got, you know, a nice long rattlesnake cable ready to go. I'm obsessed with cables. I got cables coming out of my ears, things that I've made, cables that people have given me and sent me, and as far as I'm concerned, between rattlesnake and sinusoid, you really can't go wrong, personally. So out of the Cinco, we then go into the TheGigRig G2. Now, in the tuner output, I have the TC Polytune 2 Noir, which is kind of finagled in there just a little bit. It's not like the neatest thing in the world, but that's how it fit, and you know what? It fits, it sits. Am I right? So that's pretty much it. Then we go into all the pedals that are on the pedal board. So, pedals. First thing is the Boss OC2 Octaver, which I was finally able to put on the board. We got the Keeley Compressor Plus. in loop 2, I believe. Yep. In loop 3 is the MXR EVH Phase 90. In loop 5, we have the MXR FL9 flanger, which ended up replacing the Old Blood Noise Endeavor's flat light, which I'm a little bummed about because I really love the flat light. I think it's a great sounding flanger, but there was just some sort of gain staging issue and noise issue that I couldn't quite figure out 100%. This is one of those moments where when you're trying to make a rig on your own and you don't have access to every resource to make everything as awesome as possible and you get everything the right kind of power that it needs, sometimes you just got to go with what you know. You got to go with something that you know isn't going to be as bothersome. And the FL9 has been on boards of mine for years. Usually got interchanged out with an MXR flanger, but the MXR, it's a little bigger and I needed something a little smaller, so the FL9 fits the bill, and it's a great sounding flanger. It's a heavily underrated flanger pedal that I don't think a whole lot of people really give a whole lot of credit, but it sounds great. All the like Maxon-ish 9 series pedals from Ibanez and their Maxon counterparts, they all tend to be really, really good stuff. Then after that, there's something under the pedal board. On the Waggi board, we have the bridge right here, which I actually have kind of buffered with just some gaff tape so it doesn't slam down completely. The bridge of the Waggi board just comes down a little too close for comfort to the straight jacks that go into the back of G2, so that just acts as a little buffer so that it doesn't close completely and doesn't cause any potential shorts in the GigRig. But under the bridge I have the power supplies, which are from Accel Audio, and then I have the Amp Effects EP Pre. I found that there was a setting that I liked 100%, didn't need to have it out on the board anywhere to make adjustments, so just put it under the bridge, managed to fit it. It's there to stay, and I really like it. I really like it a lot. I wasn't anticipating to really kind of gravitate towards that pedal as much when I got it, just because it's one of those things. Echoplex preamp, okay, sure, yeah, on you go. But when you finally play it and you get the magic and you get the mojo behind it, it's like, okay, that's cool. And then the bulk of the dirt sounds are coming from the Getaway Driver by Orange. I wanted something that was a good approximation of the amp that I typically use, which is a rock reverb. This is a little bit more on the vintage Orange side, so that's why I have the EP Pre before the Getaway Driver. The Getaway Driver gets a little bit of preamp boost and some sweetening from the EP Pre, and I got something that works out pretty damn well. And then after that, it's the time-based stuff. The TC Flashback 2 with my Chaos Crescendo tone print, and I use that really on just one song. The one setting that I come up with, it pretty much works out the way that I want it to. I only really need that one sound and one to kind of provide a little bit of space for the rest of the passages that I end up using it for. So where I have it set, I'm pretty content with right now. And then the reverb is all coming from the Walrus Audio Fathom. I almost said Monument. It's the Fathom. And I'm using the Hall, which I like a lot. Hall reverb is kind of my decent go-to reverb. And then from the output of G2, we're going back into the Cinco Cinco, and then this is really where the major change from the previous iteration of the pedal board and build video comes from, and that's the addition of this big box right here. It's the Carven X1, which I did a video for Carvin, and I'm anticipating that these are going to start hitting their dealers now sometime in the summer, so sometime soon, hopefully. I had heard spring, but you know how things go with production. You never really know. So you could probably just go on their website and find out when exactly that's going to come out. But what I love about this is it's a little big, it's a little bulky. So basically I'm going to have the hugest pedal board for the shortest set. We get 20 to 25 minutes to play, and I've got 1, 2, 5, 8, 9 pedals. We can basically call this 12. So essentially what the X1 is it's the preamp section of the X100B amplifier. And when I was working with Carvin and I would go down to the factory every week and kind of meet with everybody, I would always find my way into the then factory's demo room. And the X100B was always one that I tended to gravitate towards. I just really enjoyed the way it sounded. It was a very different amplifier. Carven amps have they don't get enough love for what they are because they have their own kind of thing going on. And what I love about this is that its clean tone is incredibly full and takes pedals incredibly well. So if I were to, I'll just go to the clean patch right now. That is the compressor, the EP pre, and the Fathom going into the front end of the X1. And it sounds great. So basically, what I'm doing to bypass the backline amplifier is I'm going to run out pedalboard into the X1 set clean, out of the output of the X1, and into the effects loop return into the power amp of the backline amp that I'm going to be using, which I'm just going to say this. I'm not going to mention the brand because I'm a gentleman, I guess, but I hate these amplifiers. Never played one that I liked. Never played one that I thought sounded good. Never heard one that I thought sounded good. So it's like, great. My only choices are amp that I don't like, amp that I don't like, amp that I don't like. And the big reason why I added the X1 was after a few different rehearsals with at various rehearsal spaces with different amplifiers in the back line, I was discovering that these pedals, although they sound great, you're really at the mercy of the condition of the backline amplifiers. And not all backline amplifiers are in very good condition. So sometimes you might see an amp that looks great, but inevitably you end up with an amplifier that is less than stellar, shall we say. So I'll be bypassing the preamp completely and using the X1 to get all the juice, which I'm really happy about because it sounds great and it's very consistent, and I'm a happy guy. The X1 has a built-in 5-band graphic EQ, which is incredibly useful for several reasons. And I mainly use it with a dirty sound, and then turn on the graphic EQ and use it with the 7-string to kind of maintain a tighter low end. So I'm cutting out quite a bit of the 75 and the 150 hertz band for something just a little tighter. Turn that off. And I add a little bit of 3K in there for just a little bit of extra sizzle on top. And it's a really handy thing. So I can just go ahead, leave the graphic EQ on for the first couple of songs, and then switch it off when I switch over to the Black Rider. Don't need it for the Les Paul. So it's the amazing thing about this rig is that for such a short set, you wouldn't think that I'd really put that much effort into it. You wouldn't think that I'd really need as much stuff, and really, I don't. But what this has really taught me in building this pedal board for this, pretty much the biggest gig my band has ever played, is this. Our rigs are really built for ourselves to be comfortable. We can do without a lot of stuff. If I had to, I could easily do a gig with my Les Paul, my main Les Paul, a tuner, an orange foot switch, and my rock reverb. And I would probably be able to get a lot of tones out of that just by manipulating volume controls and tone controls, and really just a little bit of reverb would help. And rock reverb has reverb built in. But when these days the pressure's really on live musicians to make recordings, to make live performance sound as close as possible to recordings as they can. And for me, I feel like with this setup, as big as it is for as short as our set is, it sounds very close to the results that I got making the records, and it sounds really close to the idea of the ideal sound that I've conjured up in my head. So I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think the sounds are great. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I think maybe we should hear how some of these things sound. I'll show you some of my patches, why don't I? Then over that, I have a preset that I call Vibes, and that basically just adds the flanger and the echo on there. Just for a little bit of fun, Dirt is pretty basic. Getaway driver with the EP pre running into it with reverb. Got a lot of good stuff in there. Solo adds on the echo and the compressor to that for just a little bit of extra juice. Heavy is an interesting one. Heavy pairs the main dirt tone with the Boss Octaver. I can't really play that one. I can, but not very well. And that sound was really created just out of rehearsing some of this one particular song in the set, this one particular part, and just I missed it. And it's like, I don't have to put it on there, but I'm missing it now that it's gone. So I'm glad it's there. It's such a great pedal. It's the oldest pedal in my collection too. So I like that a lot. I have an EVH preset, which is really just the dirt tone with a phaser. It's just kind of fun to have something like that in your arsenal. And then the rest are all Stompbox switches for the flashback, the flanger, and the phase 90s, so I can take them on and off as I please on whatever preset that I want. So if I want to just have the flanger on a, one chord of a dirty sound. Those are the only 2 chords of that song that I properly know. So, or if I want to add on some phaser to the clean tone, I can easily do that. Or if I don't want to go to the vibes, which has flange on it, and just add echo to the top of the clean tone, I can do that. And then a tuner mute. And that's pretty much it. It's a fantastic little setup. I'm really happy with it. I think the gig is going to go really well. By the time that this is uploaded and edited, we will probably have played. No, we most certainly will have played, because time is like that, Anyway, I had a lot of fun coming up with this pedal board and this concept to really kind of get out of my comfort zone. But I ended up finding myself in a comfort zone, sort of. Guitar rig design is no joke. There's a reason why there's guys that get paid thousands to build and design rigs for touring artists, because there's an art to it. There's a lot of difficulty that goes into it too. You find things happen in the grand scheme of designing that you wouldn't expect. You're always finding little tricks to make things work that you didn't expect, and you're always questioning your next move. But that's tone. That's the chase. And I have a lot of fun with that chase, and it'll be interesting to now, after this gig is done, take this all apart and then find the way that I like to use my G2 with the, effects loop and my rock reverb. I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this. I know it's a bit longer than some of the stuff that I've been putting out recently, but you guys have been asking some really great questions about this setup and wanting to know the final deal. So I am very excited to show it all to you, and I hope that we can have some more fun like this in the very near future, making a new rig and building a new pedal board. And if you haven't done so already, please do click that floating subscribe bubble when you see it, and there's going to be a couple other videos around my head that you can go ahead and watch from here. And well, until next time, I've been SeanPierceJohnson, and I wish you all great tone and happy stomping. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you soon.